Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Oh, you scoundrel! Margarita flared up with anger when she entered the bedroom and saw a photo of Marlene's mother on her husband's bedside table. In a fit of rage, she grabbed it and stormed into the girl's room. She threw the photo on the floor and said, "She's gone, and she won't be back. From now on, this place is only for my photos. Do you understand?" She painfully grabbed Marlene's hand and hissed at the girl's face. "You won't stay here for a minute. I'll send you to a boarding school, and you won't be lingering in front of my eyes, reminding me of your mother." Margarita let go of the girl, fixed her disheveled hair, and left the room. As she reached for the door handle, she heard, "Dad won't let you kick me out of the house." Without even looking at the girl, the woman sarcastically replied, "You're not welcome here anymore. We have a son whom Salvador loves. He's his heir, and you are his past. And you should get rid of the past like unwanted things." She left, slamming the door loudly. Marlene picked up the photo, held it close, and whispered, "Mommy, I feel so bad without you." In the evening, as she was about to go to bed, Marlene heard her brother crying. No one had approached him for a long time, so she decided to comfort the little one. She went to the children's room. "Why are you crying? Are you scared all alone?" The child, upon seeing his sister, immediately calmed down, smiled, and reached out his arms. "Lie down, little baby, let me cover you." Marlene gently patted the boy's head. Soothed, Isaac fell asleep quickly. Through the partially open door, it was evident that Margarita was on the phone, and when her brother quieted down, Marlene heard fragments of phrases. "Yes, I'll bring her in 3 days. Don't worry, you'll receive the full payment for the year up front. No, father won't object. He's currently abroad, and I'm taking care of the stepdaughter. Send me the list of items needed. I'll provide the address. Goodbye." Marlene realized that her stepmother was not joking about the boarding school and was intentionally taking advantage of her father's absence, as he had to travel for business negotiations. The girl quietly got up so as not to wake her brother. At that moment, Margarita entered the children's room. "What are you doing here, you rascal? Did you want to harm my son? Get out of here. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Marlene returned to her room and had been crying for a long time, burying her face in the pillow until she fell into an anxious sleep. Her dreams took her back to the time when her mother was still alive. "Sweetie," a gentle kiss woke Marlene up. "It's time to get up. Today is your birthday." The girl opened her eyes and saw her parents standing beside her bed, hugging each other tightly. "I love you so much. You're so beautiful." She smiled. "It's you who's beautiful, our little princess. Get up quickly, there's a surprise for you." Her father extended his arms. "Come to me, I'll take you to the living room." Marlene jumped out of bed. Her father lifted her, twirled her around, then, with one hand, embraced his wife, and together they went to see the presents. "Mom, Dad, you're the best," the birthday girl exclaimed. "Is this makeup for me?" "Yes, so you won't have to borrow mine anymore." Her mother laughed. "Oh, and what's this, a tablet? Wow. I have a tablet now, and it's such a cool one. The girls in my class will be so jealous." While the girl was ecstatic about her gifts, her parents stood hugging and admiring their daughter. "All right, wash up quickly, get dressed, and we're going to the park. There are rides, swings, and lots of treats waiting for us." Her father spun her around in his arms again. Even in her dreams, Marlene vividly remembered how gentle her mother's hands were, how often she stroked her head, and how she combed her long, wavy locks with her fingers. She was truly happy until tragedy struck one day. "Mommy." Entering her parents' bedroom on that dreadful morning, the little girl asked, "Why aren't you getting up? Don't you have to go to work today? Can we play all day?" "No, sweetheart, I won't be able to play with you," Laura replied, her face filled with sorrow. Daddy will be here soon. Go and play in your room for now. Laura, we need to double-check everything. This can't be true. It just can't be. Salvador leaned anxiously over his wife, gently holding her thin, pale hand and kissing it. Unfortunately, everything has already been confirmed, the woman sadly said. We can't change it. Let my last days be with you. I don't want to go to the hospital. Only when things get really bad can you take me, so Marlene doesn't see me leaving and remembers me alive. No, Mom. Marlene, who had sensed something was wrong and stood outside her parents' bedroom door and overheard the conversation, cried out. You can't die. I don't want to lose you. What will we do without you? Sweetie, I'll always be with you. I'll watch over you. Don't cry, my dear. Whatever happens, remember that I love you very much. And then her mother was no more. Her father grieved heavily over the loss of his wife, so Marlene couldn't believe it when her dad suddenly announced, Daughter, you're growing up, and you must understand me. I'm a man and still relatively young. The girl was listening carefully. In short, I met another woman. I love her, and we'll have a child. Dad. Marlene exhaled, hardly believing her ears. What about Mom? You said you loved her. And me? What will happen to me? My dear, I never stopped loving your mom, but she's no longer with us. You need another mother. You're growing up, and I can't handle it all by myself. I don't know how to dress you or braid your hair. But you will always be my daughter, nothing will change. Margarita is sweet and kind, you'll surely become friends. I don't want another mom. We were so happy together. She shouted. Please, Daddy, don't do this. Marlene woke up to her own scream. The pillow was wet from tears. It's a pity, it was just a dream, the girl said. Mom, if you're up there in heaven watching and listening to me, make it so that I can stay home. She reached under the pillow to call her father, but the phone was missing. Get up, stop lying around. Margarita decisively entered the room. Here's your suitcase, pack your things. We need to leave in an hour to make it to the boarding school before lunch. Margarita, I want to talk to my dad. Give me the phone. There's no need to bother your father. I'll call him myself after I've settled you in. You can't treat me like this. This is our home, and you're a stranger here. You're mistaken, sweetheart, the woman smirked at the girl. This house is already mine because Isaac is the heir, and I'm his mother. As for you, you're just a guest here. I would have gotten rid of you a long time ago, but there was no right moment or reason. But now, there's a reason. I'll tell your dad that you were trying to harm his son. That's not true. I was trying to comfort him. But Salvador will believe me because he always dreamed of having a son, and I gave him one. And you are a jealous wretch who wanted to harm him. But you didn't succeed. Salvador loves me. I didn't invest 3 years in him for nothing, just to get an engagement ring. He supports you out of pity for his late wife. But there's no going back to the past. So stop throwing a tantrum. You won't change my mind, you little brat. And you, Gorgon, like Medusa. Marlene retorted angrily. Margarita lunged at her, swung, and struck her in the face, causing pain. You little monster. Don't worry, you'll start behaving differently soon. They'll deal with you at the boarding school. And your dad won't help you. Believe me, I can divert his attention away from you. You'll see, my dad will come and get me. We'll see. He won't be back for a month, and by then, so much will have happened, the woman firmly headed out of the room. Get dressed and pack your things, I'm waiting for you. And please, don't delay the inevitable. Salvador successfully concluded his negotiations. There were still some details to work out, but the main issues had already been resolved. He went shopping to buy gifts for his daughters and son. Show me this set, the necklace and the ring with the diamond, he asked. Yes, I would like to buy it. Salvador was looking forward to seeing Margarita. He even imagined how she would widen her blue eyes and quickly blink her fluffy eyelashes. She always did that when she was excited. Now I need to find something for a 13-year-old girl. Maybe this bracelet will suit her? Girls like to adorn their wrists with trinkets and bracelets. Yes, that's good, I'll take all of it. Salvador left the store and called home. Darling, how are you all doing? Is Marlene not getting on your nerves too much? Everything is fine with us, the woman replied, trying to contain her excitement. We are looking forward to your return. How is my little boy doing? Isaac is growing up. I told you, everything is fine. We're eagerly awaiting your return. Don't worry about anything. I can't reach Marlene. For some reason, her phone is unavailable. She probably forgot to charge it. She'll call you back later. Well, all right then. I've bought gifts for you all. Oh, darling, what did you get for me? It's a surprise. I won't tell you yet. You'll have to wait until I return. I can't wait. These remaining 2 weeks until our meeting will feel like an eternity. Many kisses. Goodbye. Salvador hung up the phone. Tired but satisfied with his purchases, he lay down on the bed and closed his eyes. His imagination conjured up Margarita, a beautiful and slender woman with a flawless figure, blonde hair, and blue eyes framed by thick black lashes. She had come to work for them 3 years ago and immediately made an impression on Salvador. Smart and always stylishly dressed, her manner came down to conversation. I came for the job interview based on the advertisement, Margarita appraised the man, who might be her future boss. He's attractive, she thought. I wonder if he's married? I need a secretary who speaks English to negotiate with partners. I attended a specialized school, so I'm fluent in English and French. After asking a few more questions, Salvador said, "You're a good fit for us." Margarita captivated Salvador with her determination. She could easily engage in conversation and was invaluable during negotiations. She didn't immediately try to get into bed with him. She remained independent and didn't flirt with her boss, unlike her predecessors. Only occasionally did Salvador read in her gaze a passion deeply hidden. In those moments, the woman's blue eyes flared with consuming fire. Salvador found it quite enticing, but he didn't know if Margarita truly burned with desire for him or if it was just his imagination. He didn't notice when he let her into his life. "I like you very much," he confessed when he stayed overnight at her place for the first time. "And that's it? You just like me?" Margarita asked with a hint of coquetry. "I wanted to hear something else from you. I need to think it over. I truly hope that you will become a real mother to my daughter and that you can love her. I'm really good with children. You'll see, we'll find common ground." However, over time, Salvador realized that his daughter wasn't ready to accept another woman. He was waiting for the right moment to inform her of his decision. "Salvador, I'm pregnant," Margarita announced one day, and Salvador understood that the time had come. Margarita sat in the car with a stony expression on her face. Marlene was huddled in the back seat as if she were a cornered animal. "Trust me, it will be better for everyone this way," Margarita said, looking at her stepdaughter in the rearview mirror with a reconciliatory tone. "You're a smart girl, and you must understand that we can't live under the same roof. I have big plans for your father, but there's no place for you in them. You'll understand when you grow up." "My dad will still take me away from there," the stubborn girl insisted. "Your dad now has me and Isaac. You're being stubborn for no reason. Just accept it and enjoy yourself." Margarita looked at Marlene again. "After all, we'll visit you. Trust me, it's a good boarding school. They teach girls languages, dancing, and social manners. You'll like it, and you'll even thank me. They say the discipline there is strict, but it will do you good. He loves me." "That's enough talking. We're arriving." It's better for you to be convincing about your voluntary agreement to stay here. What if I don't agree? I will stop the car right now and leave you here in the middle of the woods. Let's see if you can survive. Do you want to test it? No. That's a smart girl. Margarita drove into the boarding school's grounds. It's quite nice here. They drove along the road, lined with small shrubs, and in front of the building, which resembled an old castle, colorful flower beds were in full bloom. The building's exterior gave an impression of gloom and extreme asceticism. It was clear that it hadn't been renovated for a long time. The glass sparkled dimly in frames that cracked with age. Margarita stopped the car and took their belongings out of the trunk. Why are you just sitting there? Get out. They'll take you to the headmistress and she'll explain everything to you. I'm off. A tall, unsmiling woman came to meet them. She greeted the newcomers curtly, picked up the suitcase, and nodded her head, inviting them to follow. The girl entered the building and looked back. Her stepmother was already in the car, not saying a word of farewell. The heavy oak door closed, cutting off any retreat. Without a word or a backward glance, the escort led her through a long, dark corridor and stopped. Satisfied that the girl was here, she opened the door and gestured for her to enter the office. A tall, slender woman was sitting behind the desk, jotting something down in a large, thick book. Her stern facial expression, sharp features, and the thin-framed glasses perched on the tip of her beak-like nose did not inspire sympathy. Marlene looked at her surreptitiously and thought, this must be the headmistress. She looks like a witch. For some reason, the girl immediately took a dislike to the office's owner. She didn't expect anything good from her. Name? The woman asked without raising her head. Marlene, the girl answered quietly. What a silly name. The woman snorted. Last name? Lorenzo, Marlene said just as softly. Age? 13. Your parents brought you here, is that correct? The woman raised her eyebrows and looked over her glasses at the new student. Not my parents, but my stepmother. My dad doesn't even know I'm here, the girl replied. That doesn't change the situation, the headmistress said dryly, pressing a button on her desk. A young woman entered the office, pretty, with dimples on her cheeks. ISA, take the new student to her room and explain our rules. Okay, Rufina. ISA took Marlene by the hand. Come on, I'll show you your place. She led the girl into a room that resembled a military barracks. This is your place. ISA led Marlene to a bed with a gray blanket. This is where you'll sleep. This is your nightstand. You can keep your stuff in it. Everything else you can leave in your suitcase for storage. Take out what you need, and let's go get your uniform. Uniform? Marlene asked in surprise. Yes, our students wear uniforms. You're not allowed to use casual clothing. The woman handed her a booklet. These are the rules of our boarding school. Study them carefully. Why? Can't you just tell me, and I'll remember? It's the rule. If you don't learn the rules of the internal order, you'll face punishment. Will you lock me up in a punishment cell? The girl smirked. ISA looked closely at the newcomer. If you show character, it might be tough. It's better to follow the rules. Then you'll have fewer problems. Talk to the girls and ask about the local customs. I think it will be useful for you. Where are they? In the class. She looked at the clock. We need to be in the dining room in 5 minutes. Hurry up. The woman left the room and Marlene followed her. This is our dining room. This is your seat, remember it. The girl turned pale when she entered the spacious room. There were 2 long tables in the middle, and the students were already sitting at them. They all wore identical dark blue dresses with white collars buttoned up to the chin. They also wore black aprons over their uniforms. It's as gloomy as a prison, Marlene thought. She sat in the indicated chair and glanced at the girls opposite her. None of them showed any interest in her. Only her neighbor on the right asked, "What's your name?" "Marlene." "I'm Nora." "Don't be afraid," her new acquaintance reassured her. "Everyone here is scared at first and then gets used to it." "No talking at the table," shouted a woman who had appeared out of nowhere, dressed in a tightly buttoned, long, dark dress. Marlene thought she saw a whip in the woman's hands. She watched as the students, upon hearing that voice, flinched and lowered their heads. The duty personnel placed a plate in front of each girl. They all grabbed their spoons. "Can one really eat this?" Marlene asked, examining a boiled chicken egg and a pile of tasteless oatmeal. "Eat quickly. You're not allowed to linger at the table here," Nora quickly replied. Marlene tried the porridge, but it was absolutely tasteless and not even salted. She ate the egg and drank water from the glass in front of her. Everyone stood up, and Marlene did too. The headmistress passed by the girls, carefully peering into their plates. All the plates, except Marlene's, were empty. Rufina stopped. Her eyeglasses glinted ominously, and her green eyes pierced like augers. "One." The word resonated in the silence of the dining hall. Marlene heard her neighbor gasp in fear. "Mealtime is over," announced the matron with a whip in her hand. The girls left the dining hall in silence, and Marlene followed the general flow. "Nora, what does one mean?" "We're not allowed to talk right now. I'll explain later." "This is nonsense. Why can't I talk if I have questions? Don't get me involved in it, please. You were given a booklet with the rules. Read it, and you won't have questions." An instructor appeared out of nowhere and struck her back with the whip. "You have no right to hit me," Marlene protested. "I can send you to the punishment cell right now," she said, hearing Rufina's voice next to her. "But I won't do that. For now. Let's assume you've learned the first lesson and won't break the rules again. Study them immediately and be more prudent in the future. What are you waiting for?" She shouted at the girls who had gathered. "Straight to the reading room." A minute later, there was no one left in the corridor. Marlene could only hear the faint hum of the girls' voices as they, without lifting their heads from the tables, obediently read. "Nora," Marlene whispered, "how long have you been here?" 3 years. "How old are you?" 15. "I thought you were younger. How did you end up here?" "My parents died. My older brother got married, and his wife gave him an ultimatum: either he sends me to the boarding school or she won't marry him. He chose her." "You better read the rules," Nora advised, "or you won't be able to avoid punishment next time." Marlene immersed herself in studying the booklet. "Have you been to the dungeon?" the girl asked her neighbor again. "Of course. Everyone goes there at some point. If you're lucky, you won't end up there often. But they punish everything here. If Sylvia overhears us, we're both in trouble. She's the caregiver. You've already experienced her whips." "I see. I'm so tired from the journey. I just want to rest. When can I go to my room?" "You still haven't finished reading the rules. We can't go to our rooms until dinner. We're not allowed to sit or lie on the beds until the lights go out." "Like in a prison?" "This is the prison. There's no way out of here. I won't be staying here for long. My dad will come get me soon. His business trip ends in 3 weeks. Everyone here thinks the same way. But no one has returned home from here for as long as I've been here." The girls fell silent as Sylvia kept a close eye on them. Marlene was scared. Her back still stung from the whip. The regular school bell rang, and the girls all stood up and left the reading room. "Now we have language lessons on the schedule," Nora quietly informed Marlene. "Then dinner and a little free time. We'll meet later." Marlene, following the crowd, headed to the classroom. Her new friend was with other girls. They all took their seats. The teacher pointed to an empty chair. Marlene's neighbor glanced at her face and then turned away, showing no interest. The lesson began. The girls listened and repeated. They all spoke English quite well. It was easy for Marlene because she had attended a specialized school. However, her neighbor struggled. "Would you like some help?" She glanced gloomily but moved aside, showing a note in her notebook. Marlene quickly corrected the mistakes. "What's your name?" "Ariel." "I'm Marlene. I can help you with languages." "We don't behave like this here," Ariel said, looking attentively at the girl. "But I can still help you," she said, shaking her neighbor's hand. "Don't be afraid of me. I just know more about it." "No talking." The teacher shouted at them. The bell rang for a break. Everyone stood up and went out into the corridor. Marlene wanted to lean on the windowsill, but the new acquaintance shook her head as a warning, "You can't." So they all stood silently until the bell rang and then continued with their activities. Dinner was just as meager as the breakfast, but Marlene was hungry, and she quickly emptied her plate. She already regretted not forcing herself to eat porridge for lunch. After dinner, the girls were scattering around the park, mostly alone, and Ariel and Nora approached Marlene. "How are you doing?" Nora asked. "It's tough," Marlene replied. "I won't be staying here for long anyway." "Dream on," Ariel remarked knowingly. "There's no going back. I also hoped that my grandmother would take me from here. But, as you can see, it's been 2 years. And I'm still here." "Why did she bring you here?" "My parents died, and I have a younger brother. She kept him, and she sent me here." The girl fell silent. "I don't blame her. What can she do with both of us? Can I make a call here somehow? My stepmother took away my phone. I want to call my dad. Nobody has a phone here. Do you think your father wasn't aware of your stepmother's plans? You're so naive." Ariel said bitterly. "That can't be." Marlene defended her father. "He's not like that, and he loves me." "Do they have another child?" Nora asked. "Yes." "Well, then it's clear," Ariel concluded. "What do you understand? You don't know me or my father. How can you talk about him like that? You, who are afraid to speak up and have no opinion of your own. But I won't tolerate all of this." The girl rushed into her room. There, she collapsed onto her bed and started crying. All the events of the day spilled out in tears. "Get off the bed!" She heard Sylvia's harsh voice. Reluctantly, she got up and quickly wiped away her tears. "Go to the park immediately. Everyone is still walking there. After that, I will come and test your knowledge of the rules of conduct at the boarding school. It seems like you haven't learned the first lesson." 2. She shouted directly in the girl's face, barely holding back from hitting her. Marlene flinched in fear but maintained a defiant look. "Don't look me in the eyes." "To the park," the caregiver ordered. The students continued to walk outside. No one approached her to comfort her. Even the new acquaintances didn't dare talk to her. Once again, the bell rang and everyone headed back to their rooms. Marlene was so exhausted that she fell asleep immediately, completely drained. In the morning, she hesitated to open her eyes, still hoping that it was all just a dream. But the wake-up call dispelled any doubts. Days went by. Marlene had almost resigned herself to her fate, trying not to draw attention to herself. She learned, like everyone else, to hardly speak, no longer attempted to make new acquaintances, avoided eye contact with others, and forgot how to laugh because it was forbidden. She made notches on a wooden ruler and counted down the days until her father's return. Although the new acquaintances managed to sow doubts in her heart, she still pushed away dark thoughts. "Hi." Nora approached her one day during the walk. "I can see you've gotten used to it. I'm trying not to draw attention to myself to avoid getting put in solitary confinement. You can't avoid it anyway. As you can see, I've managed so far. Don't hold it against us, the girl said reconcilingly. We've been here for a long time, and we know things that are still unknown to you. Just accept it and get rid of your silly dreams. Tell me, how many days have you been here? 20. But you said your father was supposed to return in 3 weeks. Maybe something happened. Do you really think so? Is your stepmother beautiful? Maybe, I don't know. So, she's beautiful. That's the answer to why your father isn't going to come for you. You're not needed there. That's not true. Maybe he's sick? That's possible too. But still, I would advise you not to waste your energy waiting for a miracle. Nora looked sympathetically at Marlene. A month had passed since the oak door closed behind Marlene. She had learned to be patient and composed, but she desperately missed human interaction. Ariel and Nora tried to talk to her, but she had withdrawn into herself. She found joy only in studying, dancing, and reading. Deep down, Marlene remained a rebel. She longed to be alone, even just for half an hour. One day, when everyone went for a walk, the girl discreetly sneaked into her room. She sat down on the floor in the corner, thinking no one would notice her absence, so she could arrange her thoughts until her roommates returned. However, she didn't consider the fact that the caretakers were responsible for each student, so her absence was discovered a few minutes later. Stand up. Marlene was so engrossed in her joyless thoughts that she jumped up in fright. Who allowed you to be in the room during class time? The girl helplessly looked at the floor, afraid to speak. Shaking her dry fist, the headmistress exclaimed, 3. Put her in the punishment cell. Immediately. In a moment, a caretaker appeared and roughly grabbed her hand, dragging her through the corridor and then down the stairs. Don't leave me alone. I'm scared of rats and the dark. The girl pleaded, trying to break free. Just wait, my dad will come and sort you out. Until he comes, as Sylvia continued dragging Marlene along, she said, you'll stay in this cell. There are no rats there, and it won't be dark. The room always has the light on so that people like you aren't afraid, she added mockingly. With these words, the woman opened the iron door, pushed the girl inside the room, and locked it. A bright light hung from the ceiling. In the corner, there was a toilet and a sink. Next to the wall was a stool. There was nothing else in the cell. The girl trembled with fear. The latch clicked, and a small window opened. It always has to stay open so that the guard can watch you. See, it's not scary at all. The caretaker said. You wanted to be alone and relax, so enjoy it. Her sinister laughter echoed against the walls and subsided. Marlene was left alone. Or so she thought. Hello, said an invisible person. The girl was startled in surprise. My name is Marina, what's yours? I'm Marlene. First time in the punishment cell? How did you guess? You still want to argue. And how many times have you been here? This is already the 10th time. Or maybe more. I've lost count, laughed the new acquaintance. I love being here. If you're lucky, you'll end up with a talkative girl like you. I've seen you during walks and in the dining hall, but I didn't know how you would react if I approached to introduce myself. They don't encourage friendly relationships in this boarding house. And how many days have you been here? It's the second one. I can't believe this is happening to me. Your current situation is more real than ever. She fell silent. And how did you end up here? In the cell? No, in the boarding house. No one comes here willingly. My stepmother turned me in. But I won't stay here for long. My dad will come and take me soon. He'll solve the problems and come. With each passing day, hope will fade and disappointment will grow stronger. My dad is not like that, Marlene exclaimed. Speak quieter so the guards won't hear. They check on us every hour. My dad is not like that, the girl repeated. Something just happened. But he will definitely come, you'll see. How old are you? 13. And you? I'm already 15. There is no way out of here. I've been here for 5 years already. No one has left these walls until they finish their studies. But I don't want to stay here. Isn't there a possibility of escaping? Hasn't anyone tried? Some did it out of desperation. But where would we run to? Our relatives brought us here to get rid of us. For example, my aunt sent me here. After the death of my parents, I inherited an apartment. She took custody of me and sold the apartment. Everything is possible with money. And she sent me here. And that's the story for each of us. You are so smart. I've just been here for too long. Moreover, they will track us down and bring us back anyway. And as punishment, we'll end up in the cell again. But not for a day or two, but for 10. They'll also take away our bread and water rations. No, I don't want that. It's scary to be alone. If we escape together, my dad will help me get back to the apartment. He has a friend who is a lawyer. I don't think he'll bother with me. And besides, there's no way to escape from here. It just seems like we can freely step outside the boarding school. In reality, there is a dense forest around, and you don't even know which direction to go. Let's go by the road. We won't get lost. You're silly. They'll catch us there. We can hitch a ride. It's 5 kilometers to the main road, and you won't get too far on the road. We have to go through the forest. Okay, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. But how do we sleep here? There are no beds, only a stool. Sleep on it. Don't lie on the floor, you'll catch a cold. You'll get used to it. Susano already has a Christmas tree at home, and we still don't have one. Sweetie, there are still 2 weeks until Christmas. We'll get it done. I want the tree to be at home for a long time. Well, Dad, if the child is asking, we need to put up the tree. Let's go, darling, let's get the decorations. Dad, we're ready to decorate the tree. First, spread out the branches. Salvador showed his daughter how to make the tree full. Now, help me hang the ornaments. Mom, Marlene is so smart. Look how beautiful the tree has become. He lifted his daughter up and kissed her on the cheek. Isn't Mom wonderful? The girl asked. Of course she is. Salvador kissed his wife and conspiratorially asked, I have a gift for you. I love gifts. And I love gifts. Marlene laughed because her mom tickled her belly. And now let's check if you're ready with the poems for Santa Claus. Stand on the chair. The father put the girl on her feet. Tell me. Mom, no hints. Marlene recited the poem so lively that, at some point, she swayed and opened her eyes. The bright light blinded her. Her head hurt, and her legs were swollen. Coming back to reality was tough. Her mom's laughter still echoed in her ears. Tears welled up in her eyes. Mommy, how do I tell Dad where I am? Why isn't he coming? What did Margarita say to him? Are you talking to yourself now? Congratulations. Marina said. I dreamt about Mom. Did she leave you? Why do you have a stepmother? She passed away, Marlene answered quietly. I'm sorry. I still want to try to find out how to get out of here. Are you with me? You're saying this to a practically unfamiliar person. I even barely remember your face. It doesn't matter. Tell me, are you with me? First, we need to get out of this cell and try not to get caught again. Then we can make some plans. Maybe you're right. We need to think everything through carefully, and for starters, we need to find someone local. They periodically returned to the conversation about escaping. Time was passing quickly. In the evening, Marina announced, My detention is over. They will release me today. That's good. If possible, find out who can help us. Don't be sad, you'll be out soon too. When Marlene returned from the cell, she started thinking about how to find the stranger. She didn't even have a visual memory, only remembered the voice. She could talk to the girl during walks and in the cafeteria, but how would she attract the attention of the right person? Choosing a moment, she seemingly accidentally dropped a spoon on the floor. In the silence of the room, the sound was sharp and unexpected. The director immediately appeared next to the girl. "Stand up," she shouted. "You just got out of the cell yesterday. Planning to go back?" "I'm sorry, it was unintentional." Marlene, with a sense of sincere regret, lowered her head, and her soul sang, "It worked." Now Marina knew for sure who was with her in captivity. That same evening, the girls met during the walk. "You're clever, you came up with a great idea," praised Marina. "I was racking my brain on how I would recognize you." "Well, enough talk. Did you find out anything?" "Yes, there's a local girl here, but she's small, only 7 years old. She probably can't help us." "We still have to try," Marlene declared stubbornly. Determination burned in her brown eyes, and her cheeks reddened with excitement. "You haven't changed your mind, have you?" "I'm scared," Marina said softly, looking around and twirling a lock of dark hair. "They could find out. If we're careful, no one will know. But that girl is too young for such a serious step. If you're backing out, I'll go alone." "I believe you." Mischievous sparks danced in Marina's green eyes. "Show me the local girl." Marina nodded towards a small, delicate girl standing alone, carefully examining something on her black apron. The white collar of her dress tightly clasped her slender neck. Long, light hair was neatly arranged. As if sensing a scrutinizing gaze, she lifted her head and looked attentively in the direction of the two friends. It was evident she was surprised, as if she were asking, "Why are you bothering me? What do you want? Shall we approach her?" Marlene asked. "Let's go, let's talk." "Hi, I'm Marlene, and this is Marina," she introduced herself warmly. "What's your name?" "Ida. You know the forest around here, right?" "Why?" "Just answer yes or no." "I do." "Can you show us the way to the highway?" "I can." "But why do you need it?" she asked again. "How long have you been here?" Marina inquired. 2 months. Mom has 7 of us, and Dad died at work. We decided I would go to school here. Then Mom changed her mind and wanted to take me back, but Rufina didn't want to give the money back for the boarding school, so I stayed here until the end of the school year. "Do you want to go home?" Marlene asked directly. "I do," the little girl nodded. "I miss my mom a lot. If you show us the way through the forest, you'll soon be able to see your family." "When?" Marina caught a caretaker's suspicious look. "That's it, we're done. It seems like we've attracted attention. Listen, Ida, don't tell anyone that we asked you anything, understood?" Marlene sternly asked. "If you tell anyone, we'll all be sent to the punishment cell." "Have you ever been there?" "No," the girl mumbled. "And you shouldn't go. I know what I'm talking about. We'll meet again tomorrow and set a date for the escape." While the escape was being prepared at the boarding house, Margarita invented new reasons why Marlene wasn't in contact. When Salvador called and said he would be delayed, she was ecstatic. It was much easier to play the role of a kind, caring stepmother from a distance. She was already getting used to the role of the authoritative mistress of the estate and was confident that she would be able to justify herself to her husband for taking her stepdaughter to the boarding house. Margarita knew how to speak flattering words. She was very good at manipulating the feelings of a lonely man. She remembered the rage she felt when she saw a photo of Salvador's wife and daughter on her boss's desk, yet she still asked, "Is this your family? You have a beautiful wife." "She's lucky. My wife recently passed away." "I'm sorry, I didn't know," the woman said sorrowfully, while inside she was rejoicing. Since that day, Margarita has skillfully set love traps, as if accidentally brushing against his shoulder with her chest while bringing documents for him to sign. She looked seductively, trying to catch his gaze, and when she succeeded, she licked her moist lips with the tip of her tongue and saw desire ignite in his eyes. "You won't succeed," her colleague laughed. "We'll see about that," the woman confidently declared. You can't imagine how many secretaries have tried to win his favor and jump into his bed. But they all failed. "Well, I won't rush. I'll start with his daughter. Salvador will see that I want to befriend Marlene, and he will melt. And then, we can have him all cozy and warm." "You're cynical, Marga." "I'm calculated. I set a goal, and I go for it. By the way, that's why the boss appreciates me. And I will succeed. You'll see." Salvador held on for a long time. Almost 3 years, but then he gave in. The girls were waiting for a convenient moment. They didn't rush, trying not to attract the attention of the director and caretakers. "Tomorrow night, we need to leave," Marina announced one day. "Why tomorrow?" "Because tomorrow we'll have guests." I accidentally overheard Rufina talking. "That means they'll all be at the celebratory dinner in the evening. It's been like this before. We can't wait for a better moment." "Okay. We need to warn Ida." Once their neighbors in each room were asleep, they carefully slipped out of the building. The lights were on in the cafeteria, and voices and laughter could be heard from the open windows. Like shadows, the girls stealthily ran towards the forest. It was very dark and scary, but they ran, not stopping, getting further and further away from the hated prison. Moving through the forest in long dresses was inconvenient, but no one complained. "Ida," Marlene asked, out of breath from the fast run. "Are you sure we're moving in the right direction?" "Yes, I know these places well. We used to come here for mushrooms with Dad." "I can't see anything." "How can you be sure of the direction?" "Let's take a break," Ida begged. "I can't run anymore." "Just a little more." "How far is it to the highway?" "I don't know," the girl suddenly declared and started crying. "I think we're lost." "Okay, let's take a break," Marina declared. "We won't be able to get out of here in the dark. We'll wait for dawn. If the highway is nearby, we'll hear the cars." The girls settled under a tall tree. The hems of their dresses were wet with dew, entwining their legs and hindering movement. "I want to try tearing the bottom of my dress," Marlene said. She tore the damp fabric with her teeth and then gave it a sharp pull. "There, now it will be easier." The others followed her example. Marina helped Ida. The girl endured the difficulty stoically. "I let you down," she suddenly cried. "Calm down," Marina said, trying to warm up. Tired, they could feel the cool morning air. "It will dawn soon, and we'll find the road. The main thing is not to be discovered right away." Finally, darkness receded, and they could see the tree trunks. The girls were silent, huddled closely together. Suddenly, Marlene perked up. "Do you hear that?" "What?" Marina responded. She even tried to doze off. "The sound of an engine." "No, you imagined it," the girl waved it off. "I think I hear it too," Ida reported, getting up from the ground. "Get up," Marlene commanded. "Now we mustn't make a mistake and go towards the sound." They jumped up and quickly shook off their dresses. The car noise was quite distant, but they ran, trying not to lag behind each other. Marlene occasionally stopped listening. "We need to stop," she declared. "I can't hear anything anymore. Let's wait for the next one, and in the meantime, rest." "Maybe we shouldn't waste time?" Marina suggested. "We need to make it before sunrise." "She's completely exhausted," Marlene nodded towards Ida. The girl stopped, breathing heavily. "I'm just slowing you down," the little one cried. "Leave me here, I can't go on anymore. Besides, no one will be happy to see me at home and will send me back right away." What are you talking about? Marina protested. You almost led us to the highway, and in the middle of the night. Not every adult could do that. Don't talk nonsense. Let's catch our breath and move again. Marlene perked up. Girls, a car. They jumped up and ran towards the sound. Soon, the trees began to thin out, and they saw the road. Well, here we are, Marina said, sitting down on the ground. Now, we'll wait for a ride. She suddenly laughed. You should see yourselves now. Ida, you're all dirty and disheveled. And you, she turned to Marlene, look more like a little bandit than a girl. Look, your dress is torn on the side. I snagged it on something in the dark. Do you think you look better? Your hair is a mess, and you have scratches on your face. Oh, girls, she said dreamily, just a little bit more, and I'll be home. I really hope that Dad has returned. Yeah, he's back, Marina darkened. Then why didn't he come for you? She paused, imagining what she must have told him. If he didn't rush to take you out of this prison immediately. Marlene sighed heavily. She promised to say that I wanted to harm their child. Why do I need this? The child is not to blame for having such a vile mother. I really want to eat, Ida sighed. Yeah, Marina supported her. Breakfast is coming up at the boarding school. Do you regret running away? Marlene looked suspiciously at them. No, of course not, the little one said, embarrassed. I'm just very tired and cold. You'll be home soon, Marina patted her on the shoulder. But we still don't know what awaits us. You know, she turned to Marlene, how far is it to the city? I'm not sure, but we drove for 2 hours. The sound of an engine echoed. The girls ran to the road. Suddenly, the older one sharply pulled her friends to the ground. What's wrong? Ida asked, rubbing her hand. That's the headmistress's car. They're looking for us, Marina said in fear. They stayed lying on the ground. We need to get out of here quickly. I think, Marlene whispered, we should stay here until it gets dark. If they're looking for us, they'll check all the cars going to the city. They think that we'll try to leave in the nearest car. Let them think that we couldn't get out of the forest. Girls, I'm scared, Ida cried. If they catch us, Sylvia will start whipping us. She once hit me when I didn't listen well in class. We won't be caught, Marlene said firmly. We need to wait. Ida, she addressed the little girl, is there a village nearby? We can't go to the village, especially now, Marina remarked. That's the first place they'll look. Let's wait. It's good that it's summer, we can look for berries. It would be nice to find water to drink and wash up. There should be a spring somewhere nearby. My dad and I used to go there. So, is your home not far from here? About 10 kilometers. You can't go home now. Most likely, the headmistress has been there, Marlene guessed. It's better to go with us in the car, and then we'll leave you, and we'll go further ourselves. Engrossed in their conversation, they didn't notice how it began to get dark. The weather had been overcast all day, and by evening, a light rain started. The girls were freezing. That's it, the next car is ours. Marina declared it decisively. I won't survive another night in the forest. As soon as she said that, the sound of an engine could be heard. The girls ran to the road and began waving their hands, asking for help. The car stopped. A young man in his 30s looked out of the window. Next to him was an older man. Girls, where are you from and where are you heading? The driver asked cheerfully. We got lost, and now we're trying to get home. Can you give us a ride? No problem. Where should I take you? Marlene named the city. The men exchanged glances. There were lustful sparks in the eyes of the older one, but, of course, the girls didn't notice it. They were too tired, exhausted, and hungry. The older man got out of the car, opened the door, and invited them to get in. The girls got into the car. Excuse us for the mess, Marina said shyly. We might have dirtied your seat. Don't worry, we'll clean it. The young man replied, evaluating the older passenger. He understood right away that she was older. His gaze slid across her face, then down to her chest, hidden under an ugly dark dress. She's pretty, he noted to himself. Ida's home is about 10 kilometers away, and we're going further, Marlene said. Don't worry about money. If you allow us to make a call, I'll tell my dad, and he'll pay whatever you ask. The men exchanged glances again. The older one nodded in agreement. Great. But there's no network here. We'll drop off the little one, and then you can make the call. The girl nodded in response. The car started moving. After a few minutes, Ida informed them that it was her settlement. I'll always remember you, hugging Marina and Marlene in turn. The girl cried. And you remember me sometimes. She kissed each of them and got out of the car. Now let's get you to your destination. The young man laughed. You must be hungry? Virgilio. He addressed his passenger. Do you still have cookies and lemonade? Virgilio pulled out a small bottle of lemonade and a bag of cookies from the bag he held on his lap. He handed everything to the girls. Have a snack for now. In a few kilometers, there's a trucker's rest area. We'll stop and eat there. Thank you, Marlene said, munching on the cookies. I've never eaten such delicious cookies in my life. Oh, she exclaimed. You promised to let us make a call. No network yet. We'll get to the rest area, and then you can call. Rest for now. The men exchanged glances again. By the way, let's introduce ourselves. This is Virgilio, and I'm Menandro. Nice to meet you, Marina said, barely holding back a yawn. I'm Marina, and she's Marlene. That's good. Now we're not strangers, Virgilio cheerfully remarked, glancing at Marlene and winking conspiratorially. There was something in his gaze that made the girl wary. But her thoughts suddenly became tangled, and her body somehow stopped obeying her. Marlene made an effort to open her heavy eyelids. What's happening to me? She managed to ask before succumbing to a heavy sleep. That's the time, Virgilio announced. The car sped into the night on the wet asphalt, carrying the sleepy girls in an unknown direction. Salvador stepped out of the airport. In his thoughts, he was already home, anticipating the meeting with Margarita. He was concerned that he hadn't spoken to Marlene for a whole month, but he kept finding excuses, convincing himself that everything was fine with the girl. The phone call pulled Salvador out of deep contemplation. Is it Salvador? Yes. Who am I speaking to? My name is Rufina, and I am the director of a private boarding school. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what I have to do with a private boarding school. Your daughter, Marlene, our student, escaped last night. 2 other girls under our care left with her. We are very concerned about what happened. I don't understand anything. My daughter attends a regular school. Maybe you've made a mistake. No. Your wife paid for full board for the entire school year. I believe you need to come. Salvador was bewildered. I hope you'll explain what's going on, he addressed Margarita even though she wasn't there, and started the car. Darling, you're finally back. Isaac, hug Daddy. Handing over their son to her husband, Margarita chatted away, not noticing his stern expression. She tried to kiss Salvador, but he recoiled and, piercing her with his eyes, said, barely restraining his anger, Where's my daughter? Why is someone named Rufina calling me and saying that Marlene is missing? Explain what's going on. Isaac started crying. Take the child. There is no need for these distracting maneuvers. Lay it all out as it is. The woman took the child to the nursery, feverishly trying to devise a conversation strategy. She did not expect Salvador to find out everything before she could tell him. Darling, don't be mad at me. I made it for the best. We have a little child. He demands attention, and you travel a lot on business. I work so that you have everything you need. Don't avoid the question. I'm trying to explain to you that Marlene is calmer at the boarding school. There, the students study languages and social manners. She can receive a proper upbringing and education among other girls there, unlike how you've spoiled her. Let me decide where my daughter will receive an education. I just wanted to help you. I see that you worry about her. Margarita tried to catch her husband's gaze, but he deliberately kept away from her. I couldn't keep an eye on her and our son. She needs attention. She's been having problems at school. And, in the end, she's jealous of Isaac. Yes, she tried to hit him because he was crying and disturbed her from falling asleep. Salvador grabbed his wife by the shoulders and shook her forcefully. Don't lie. My daughter would never harm her brother. And remember, if she doesn't come back, I'll take my son and kick you out on the street. Margarita started crying. Of course, we mean nothing to you. You only love your daughter. You're ready to do anything for her. Yes, I love my daughter. She lost her mother. It was a real tragedy for her. I hoped you would become a second mother for her, the man said with regret, but I was wrong. I tried. Do you believe me? The woman asked, looking up at her husband with a pleading expression and wringing her hands in front of him. But she, like a little wolf, didn't want to connect with me. She played nasty tricks on me. I couldn't do anything with her. It seemed to me that our constant clashes bothered you too. It didn't seem to you, but you didn't have the right to make such a decision on your own. Get ready, we're going to this damn boarding school. I need to know why Marlene ran away. Salvador, maybe we can celebrate your return today, and we'll go there tomorrow? Margarita asked timidly, but she faltered, catching his gaze, which expressed open disdain. I can't believe how wrong I was about you. Why didn't I listen to my daughter? She immediately understood what kind of person you are. How can you say that? Margarita protested. I spent so much time with you and gave birth to our son. And she's an ungrateful creature, should have been sent somewhere long ago so as not to get in the way. She ruined everything. The woman declared angrily. So, you've shown your true self, Salvador said with sadness. Get ready. But who will I leave Isaac with? He's little. Fine, I'll go alone. Salvador left, slamming the door loudly. Margarita collapsed on the bed and began crying. I spent 3 years on him, 3 years, and this brat destroyed everything. She was sobbing, left alone. Meanwhile, Salvador rushed to the boarding school. Seeing his car, Rufina came out onto the porch. Hello. I'm glad you came right away. Let's go to the office, I'll explain everything. Well, try to explain how it happened that the girls ran away and you still haven't found them. And who was the instigator of the escape? I hate to upset you, but it seems it was your daughter. Why do you think so? You see, she was eagerly anticipating your return and missing home. I don't know why your wife brought her here. We are not interested in such details, but the girl was clearly not ready for such a decision. Who was she friends with here? What are they saying? You see, the rules of our boarding school do not encourage overly friendly relationships. Especially since the girls have very little free time. We identified too, but they couldn't say much about her. I don't understand. What do you mean by does not encourage overly friendly relationships? Are you saying that Marlene didn't communicate closely with anyone in a month? Not exactly, the headmistress hesitated. We have strict rules. If discipline is not maintained, the girls tend to become disobedient. Probably, with my daughter, it turned out the opposite. In protest, she ran away. What are you doing with the children here? I would like to inspect the room where my daughter lived and take her personal belongings. Yes, please, come this way. Rufina led Salvador to the room. The atmosphere struck him. Why is it so gloomy? It's hard to believe that girls live here. Because we adhere to an ascetic upbringing. Nothing unnecessary. Salvador's heart tightened. He pictured his daughter's room at their house. Lovingly arranged furniture, cheerful wallpaper on the walls. Laura had even chosen them. And soft toys everywhere. Turtles with soft shells roamed on his cheeks. How could Margarita send Marlene here, a girl so loved at home by her mom? Salvador thought and felt an overwhelming sense of guilt towards his daughter. How blind I was. They left the room. At the end of the corridor, Sylvia was dragging a little girl by the hand. With horror, Salvador saw that, on the other hand, the caregiver held a whip. "Are you hitting the students?" he asked menacingly. "I'll report you. This is not a boarding school, it's a real prison." Rufina noticed. "Of course, we have punishments. Strictness in everything. Violating the rules entails punishment. The girls must understand this. They all have a difficult fate. If we don't instill discipline in them, no one knows which path they might take." "I'll deal with you later," Salvador promised. "But now I would like to talk to the girls who knew Marlene." They returned to the office. The headmistress sent ISA to fetch Nora and Ariel. "Tell me everything you know," Rufina ordered. "We already said we don't know anything. Marlene never discussed the escape in front of us. The girls insisted on not lifting their heads." "How can that be? They told me you were friends with my daughter." "We are not allowed to be friends," Ariel's voice trembled. Salvador realized he wouldn't get anything from them and asked to let the girls go. "How can you treat children like this? They're beaten, speechless animals. You might end up in prison. Are you threatening me now?" "No, but I promised to report to the authorities to conduct an investigation here. However, that's for later." "Did you report to the police?" "Yes, they combed the forest, but there were no traces. It's like they disappeared into thin air. I would like to meet with the investigator handling the case." "I'll write down his number for you," the headmistress said. "His name is Nemesio Santos." "I won't detain you any longer," she said, handing him the note. "I've already spent too much time here. I have things to attend to." "Fine. I'm leaving, but I'm not saying goodbye. I stand by my word." With these words, Salvador left the boarding school building and headed to the police station located in the adjacent village. There, he located the investigator handling his daughter's case. "Hello. Have you found out anything?" "Nothing so far," the investigator sighed. "We've only determined that they went to the highway through the forest and found the place where they rested, shreds of dresses." "Shreds of dresses?" The man was surprised. "Yes, scraps of skirts. Probably to move more easily through the forest. The dress was long, as we understood. That's where the tracks are lost. They might have gone in a car, but no one saw anything, no witnesses." Rufina said there were 3 of them. "Yes, we sent requests to the police departments in each of their hometowns. Unfortunately, they haven't shown up at home. We're working on it, the search is ongoing, and volunteers are involved." The investigator paused for a moment and sympathetically suggested, "You should go home, maybe they'll show up, and you're not there." "Yes," Salvador agreed, "that's what I'll do. But keep me informed about the investigation." "Definitely," Nemesio promised. The investigator in his office examined photos of the girls. "I understand why they ran away," he said thoughtfully to his assistant, Ignacio. "The rules there at the boarding school are such that not every adult could endure them. And our assumption about who suggested the escape also makes sense. This Marlene recently enrolled there. The spirit of freedom hasn't been beaten out of her yet. And it seems like the father had no idea what his wife would do. And she's the stepmother to the girl, by the way." "Ignacio, call the nearest hospitals." "I already called all of them yesterday," his assistant interrupted. "That was yesterday. What if new information comes up? And I'll visit the family of the youngest girl, Ida, again. Rufina claims her mother turned her in, but my 6th sense tells me she deceived us. I'll talk to the neighbors. Meanwhile, Salvador pulled into a truck stop and decided to take a short break to refuel the car. The latest news had thrown him off balance, and he had just returned from a business trip in the morning, going straight for Marlene. By evening, he was so tired that he feared falling asleep at the wheel. He kept thinking about his daughter, where she was, what was happening to her. "Gloria, I saw on TV that the girls from the boarding school ran away." The man involuntarily listened to the conversation between the shopkeepers. "Do you remember the car yesterday evening? I saw 2 sleeping girls in it. What if it was them?" "No, there were only 2 of them, and 3 are missing. I don't know if it's worth reporting to the police." Salvador approached the women. "Excuse me, I overheard your conversation. I'm the father of one of the missing girls. Oh, we feel so sorry for them. We just hope they're found alive. What's your name?" "I'm Toya, and this is Gloria. Tell me everything you saw. Try to remember all the details. It's crucial." "Well, as I was saying, a car stopped by us last night." "What kind of car? What is the car brand? Did you remember the license plate?" "It was blue." "I don't know much about cars." "I do," Gloria interjected. "It was a blue Mercedes." "And the license plate? Did you see the number?" "No, we didn't catch it." "What happened next?" Salvador urged. "I thought the girls were sleeping kind of unnaturally." "What do you mean, unnaturally?" "Too soundly. They didn't wake up in the parking lot. They didn't wake up while the driver was refueling." "Yes, and they only bought food for themselves," Gloria added. "Thank you, you've been very helpful." "Oh, and there's one more thing," Toya paused, trying to remember. 50 kilometers from here, there's a small village. About a week ago, 2 girls went missing there, around the same age as yours. It was in the newspapers. You can check it out or watch it on television. They did a report about them." "Thank you so much. This is very valuable information." Salvador quickly paid and left the cafe. He dialed the investigator's number. "Nemesio, hello again. It's Marlene's father. I gathered some interesting information at the truck stop. I think we need to discuss it. Urgently. I also have news about the 3rd girl. It's too late today. Let's talk tomorrow." "Why tomorrow? My daughter is nowhere to be found, and you're telling me to leave it for tomorrow?" Salvador protested. "Okay, stay where you are. I'll be right there." An hour later, they were sitting at a table in a cafe, exchanging information. Turns out that the 3rd girl, Ida, is actually at home, stirring his coffee with a spoon, Nemesio explained. The mother didn't say anything because she's scared of Rufina. Everyone is afraid of her. The mother isn't even planning to return the money, as long as her daughter stays with them. "Did you manage to talk to the girl?" "Yes. She said they got into some blue car. They dropped her off near her home, and your daughter and the other runaway continued on. She doesn't know anything else. My assistant called the nearest hospitals. No one resembling our girls has been admitted." "What about you?" "A car. Blue Mercedes." "That doesn't necessarily have to be the same car," the investigator noted. "Women noticed 2 girls in the car. So what? They could be parents with children. They found it strange that the girls were sleeping too soundly and the driver only bought food for 2. Isn't that odd? You think they were drugged? Most likely. And it gets even more interesting. Apparently, girls have gone missing here before. You'll need to trace it through your channels. I know what I need to do. And you, stop playing detective. It could be dangerous. My daughter is missing. She might be in the hands of criminals. And you're suggesting I sit and wait? Yes. Stay home in case the runaway shows up. Have you called your wife? No. Well, you should. Maybe your daughter has already returned. With those words, the investigator stood up, hinting that the conversation was over. I'll contact you tomorrow. And please, don't take any steps without me. He got into his car and drove away. Salvador headed home. He called Margarita. Marlene didn't show up. No, Margarita replied, and after a pause, she timidly asked, "When will you be back?" "I'm on my way," he answered and hung up. Margarita anxiously looked at her husband. "Salvador, forgive me, please. Just don't leave us. I did it for the best." The reviews about the boarding school were overwhelmingly positive. "Let's talk tomorrow. I'm dead tired," he said, undressing on the go. "I'll sleep in the office tonight." Salvador lay down on the couch and fell into a deep sleep. In the early morning, he dreamt of a boat ride on a lake with his wife and daughter. His girls laughed with joy. The wind played with the waves. Suddenly, the wind picked up sharply, the boat rocked, and Marlene fell into the water. "Salvador, save our daughter!" Laura screamed. "I will save her, I promise, trust me." Salvador woke up to Margarita shaking him by the shoulder. "You were shouting in your sleep." "Sorry. Is it morning already?" "Yes, I've prepared breakfast, let's go." "In a moment, I just need to freshen up." Silence weighed heavily at the table. "Salvador, talk to me," pleaded the woman. "Margarita," the man looked at her, "I never want to see you again." "But how can that be? We loved each other. We have a son. You can't just eliminate me from your life." "I can. You put me in a position where I had to choose. There's nothing more valuable to me than my daughter." "What about Isaac?" "I'll help you. I'll have meetings with him. You're his mother. Let him stay with you." "No way," Margarita shouted. "I don't want to raise a child alone. I don't need him. Without you, he's not needed. Don't leave me, please." "So be it. I don't have time to sort out our relationship. Pack your things. Thanks for our son. In gratitude, you'll get an apartment. But don't expect anything more." "But can I continue working for you?" "No. I've decided to sell the business and buy the boarding school. I'll turn it into the best place for children to live and learn happily." Salvador stood up. "Excuse me, I have to go. I hope you won't be here when we return. I'll let you know when the divorce papers are ready." He called someone and informed them that a nanny would be here in a few minutes. Sitting in the car, he called the investigator. "Hello, any news?" "No, nothing about the girls, but you pulled an interesting thread, and we have our first suspects. Could you come over?" "I have to go to work right now," he checked the time, "but I'll be there by evening. Can you book a room for me in a hotel closer to the boarding school?" "Yes, I can do that." "Then, see you later," said Salvador. Lawyers were waiting for him. He hurried to resolve all the issues as quickly as possible. Marlene struggled to open her eyes. She had a headache. The girl blinked, adjusting to the dimly lit room. It was cold, and the smell of mold hit her nose. She realized she was lying on a mattress. The blanket on top didn't provide warmth. It was damp. She sat up, looked around, and noticed Marina nearby, shaking her. "Marina, are you alive?" "Yes, she's alive." "Calm down," she heard someone's voice. She took a closer look. Two other girls were lying on adjacent mattresses. They just haven't woken up from the sedative yet. "And who are you?" "I'm Marta, and this is Estefania. How did we end up here? And what's going on?" "I hardly remember anything. We don't really know where we are. And you probably asked for a ride to the city too, right?" "Yes. I remember they dropped off Ida, and we went to the city. Then they treated us with cookies and gave us water, and that's all I remember. We fell for the treat too. Only it turned out to be special," Marta remarked gloomily. ISA is still suffering. How long have you been here? About a week, I guess. You lose track of time here. It's dark both at night and during the day. Do you know why we're here? I don't know for sure. I can only guess. They want to sell us. Waiting for a buyer or more girls. Sell us? Why? Marlene became frightened. Well, I think either into prostitution or for organs. Really? That can't be. The girl became scared. Oh, it can. Marta fell silent. How old are you? 13. And you? I'm 16. Estefania is 11. Can we escape from here? We've tried already, Marina spoke up. And it's all your fault. I warned you, we should have stayed quiet until the end of the boarding school. But no, we got ourselves into an even worse situation. But we did manage to escape. I didn't know there were criminals in the car. Marlene fell silent. I just want to eat and drink. They feed us once a day, Marta informed. Why is ISA silent all the time? The girl asked. Out of fear. She's afraid that her parents will find her and punish her for leaving home without permission, the companion smirked. Foolish, Marina remarked. We should just stay here alive, and our parents will be overjoyed to find us. The lock clicked, and Menandro appeared in the doorway. Upon closer inspection, Marlene recognized him. Are you awake? He said, leaning towards the girls. Eat. He placed plates on the mattress. My dad will find us, and you'll end up in prison. Marlene said. He won't make it in time, the man declared. In 3 days, you won't be here anymore. Where will you take us? Marta asked. None of your business. And without saying another word, he left the room. Girls, I'm scared. Marina whispered. ISA sniffled. I can't go anywhere, my parents will kill me. She cried. Are you stupid? Marina shouted at her. No one will find us now. You'll be the first one sent for organs, as you're the youngest. Why are you scaring her? Marlene calmly intervened. We have 3 more days. We must come up with something. The girls fell silent in response. If we don't find a way out, we'll perish. And I don't want to die. They need us alive. At least for now. Marta started eating. The girls also picked up their spoons. It was dark and quiet. No sounds from outside penetrated here. The girls were engulfed in gloom. Still, we shouldn't give up. Emptying her plate, Marlene jumped to her feet. Her whole body ached, and her head still hurt. The damp dress chilled her. She began to inspect the room, feeling the walls with her hands, trying to find any way to escape or call for help. It's useless, Marta said doomedly. I've already checked everything. There are stone walls and bars on the window. What's outside the window? I don't know, it's high up there. Marina, help me up, I'll try to look out the window, she asked. Marina reluctantly stood up. Well, what do you see? A garden. Can you see people? No. You know, I have an idea. Marina lowered the girl to the floor. We need to make some kind of sign. Like what? Marta asked anxiously. What do we have? They started inspecting themselves, checking their pockets. Marlene had an idea. I'll throw the apron out the window. If they are looking for us, and I'm sure they are, they'll notice it and understand where we are. With these words, she tied the apron in a tight knot. Marina lifted her again, and the girl threw it out the window. Well, now all that's left is to wait, she said. What a gloomy prospect, Marina sighed. We must not lose hope, Marlene firmly declared. What else is there to do? We'll wait, Marta supported her. ISA, hiding under the blanket, was quietly crying, occasionally sobbing spasmodically. Finally, one after another, the girls drifted into a heavy, restless sleep. Salvador tracked down journalists from the local newspaper's crime department who had written about the missing girls. He found out that in the last 6 months, under unexplained circumstances, 4 more children of various ages disappeared. No traces, no leads, but in one more case, witnesses remembered a blue Mercedes. That was something. The missing children had no apparent connections among themselves. It seemed that they abducted any girl of the right age who, for some reason, got into a car with unfamiliar men. She behaved so recklessly, lamented Salvador, talking to the journalists. Everywhere, they keep saying not to approach strangers. But there will always be adventurous girls. He shared this information with the investigator, who pieced together the facts of the girl's disappearance bit by bit. We assumed that we should look for the owner of the car within a radius of 100 kilometers. Why do you think so? All the missing girls lived within this radius. Our operative is finding out how many blue Mercedes cars are registered here. But the car doesn't necessarily have to be registered here, Salvador objected. Maybe, Nemesio replied. But we're working on every detail. We're looking for even the slightest coincidence. At that moment, Ignacio, the investigator's assistant, burst into the office. We have a lead, he declared from the doorway. There aren't that many blue Mercedes cars. And one of our former clients, a certain Virgilio Pena, was involved in the early 2000s, but only as a witness. There wasn't enough evidence against him at the time. Yes, it was a high-profile case, especially here. The public was ready to tear the suspects to pieces. But as far as I remember, Nemesio spoke up. He left this region. And now he's back, Ignacio reported, rubbing his hands. He got a job, but you won't make much money working honestly. Apparently, he decided to recall the old days. Living the high life. You don't earn that kind of money for nothing. Probably, the business is thriving. Why are we sitting here? Salvador jumped up. We need to hurry. The address, Ignacio, the investigator said on the move. Let's go. I'm coming with you, it's 50 kilometers from here. I'll call for backup. An hour and a half later, they stood in front of a huge mansion. Are you sure this is the place? Salvador asked. Yes, it is. The only question is where they are keeping the girls. Until backup arrives, let's inspect the area, Nemesio suggested. Ignacio, carefully go around the house on the right, and we'll go on the left. Meet us at the entrance. Try not to be seen by the guards. With small dashes, they approached the house. Wait, don't move, ordered investigator Salvador. There are guards. Let's wait until they pass. Good thing there are no dogs. When the guards had passed, they moved towards the house again. Suddenly, Salvador stumbled over something, bent down, and saw that it was the apron. Recognizing the girl's uniform from the pension, he quietly called out. Nemesio, the girls are here. Look what I found. Where did you find them? Right here. Nemesio looked up and carefully examined the windows. Most likely, they were held there. Right under the roof, in 3 windows, there are bars. Do you think they've already been taken away? I don't know, let's check. As if from the ground, the commander of the support group appeared. Finally, Nemesio sighed in relief. Let's enter the house. Presumably, the girls are here. He pointed to the barred windows. They all silently moved towards the house. You stay outside for now, Salvador ordered. After a few minutes, screams and gunfire were heard. Unable to resist, Salvador rushed after them. One by one, they were already pulling the bandits out of the house with their hands tied behind their backs. Rushing inside, he saw that the fighters were carrying the girls in their arms. Marlene. He rushed to his daughter, embraced her, and held her close, tears streaming down his face. My dear, how guilty I am before you. Forgive me for not believing you about Margarita. Hold on, my little one, everything will be fine. Daddy, the girl spoke weakly, I knew you would find me. Why didn't you come for so long? I am so sorry, repeated the father. All the business and affairs, I should have stayed with you. But now everything will be different. Trust me. In the car, Salvador gently covered his daughter with a blanket, warming her and stroking her tangled hair and her face with dried blood. He wrapped her injured legs, all covered in bruises and cuts, and kissed her dirty cheek. Did they hurt you? He asked, afraid to hear the answer. No, they barely fed us. And the bruises. We ran through the woods at night. She paused for a moment, gathering strength, then asked, Dad, are we going home? There's no going back to the past, the father mysteriously replied. First to the hospital, and then we'll talk. A month passed. The girls were discharged from the hospital. Salvador came to meet his daughter. Dad, we're finally going home. Marlene exclaimed as she got into the car. Remember, you promised to help Marina get her apartment back? Did it work out? Salvador pulled out some documents. Here, everything is ready. But for now, she will live and study at the boarding school until she comes of age. Along with you, by the way. No, Dad, but there's Rufina. I'm sure you'll like it there, her father laughed. Can I ask you one more question? Is it about Margarita? The girl nodded. We broke up. I sold our house, Margarita kept the apartment, and Isaac will live with us. She decided that herself. The car joyfully sped along the road to the boarding school. When they entered the territory, Marlene screamed in surprise, seeing the buildings shining with fresh paint. Dad, what is this? Did we make a mistake? No, dear. I sold the business, bought the boarding school, and did the renovation. I fired all the old staff and replaced them with new ones. While they were talking, the girls ran towards them. Marlene looked at them in confusion, not recognizing them. I can't believe my eyes, you all look so beautiful and cheerful. The girls surrounded her and eagerly started spreading the news. Thanks to your dad, he got rid of Rufina. She's now awaiting trial. And Sylvia resigned on her own and left immediately, afraid she'd be under arrest too. We have such kind teachers. You should see our rooms. And the uniforms. Do you remember our dark, long dresses? They laughed cheerfully and hugged each other, pulling Marlene along. Salvador followed. Dad, the girl turned on the porch, if you sold the house, where will we live? For now, here. I converted one wing into living quarters for the staff, and a new house for us is already being built. Marlene walked through the corridors and didn't recognize them. Only a month and a half had passed, but life at this boarding school had changed drastically. Dad, who is the director now instead of Rufina? If the girls let me, I'll introduce you to her. Salvador opened the door to the director's office. Here, this is the new director of the girls' boarding school, Pamela. Marlene looked at her father in surprise. But this is... Yes, my dear, she's Susano's mother. The girl rushed to the woman and hugged her. I'm so glad to see you. And Susano, where is he? The girl asked. Pamela replied. Susano will study in the neighboring village. It's not far from here, where your old friend Ida lives. How everything has changed here. It's just amazing. Marlene returned to the girls. I can't believe that not so long ago there was a prison here. Sylvia was walking around with a whip, and we were afraid to even look at each other. And it's all thanks to you that we got rid of Rufina. No, I had nothing to do with it. If you hadn't escaped, the police wouldn't have been interested in life in the boarding school, and your dad wouldn't have achieved the arrest of the director. When you disappeared, so much happened here. The girls, interrupting each other, shared their impressions and genuinely rejoiced at the changes. In the evening, tired but content, Marlene lay in bed and remembered a day full of impressions. Aren't you sleeping yet? Her father peeked in. No, I can't fall asleep. So much happened today. Were you glad to come back here? I don't know. It's been a hard way. You're very brave. I just wanted to get back home as soon as possible. Dad, the girl asked after a pause, were you very upset that Margarita left? I was blinded by her, didn't see anything around me, thought I was in love, and was happy about the appearance of a son. Work took up a lot of time, and I hoped that Margarita could comfort you after Mom's death and that you wouldn't feel lonely. But she manipulated me skillfully. I didn't want to notice that you were unhappy. And then her malicious nature came out. She abandoned the son, and it's as if I woke up and realized that she never truly loved me, she just used me. He fell silent, took his daughter's hand, and said, Forgive me, I almost lost you. I'm not mad, I understand how hard it is to be alone. I'm not interested in women anymore. I think I know who will suit us. Marlene mischievously looked at her father. Pay attention to Pamela. She looked at you like that today. What? Her father got scared. She's always so strict, and I'm a bit afraid of her, even though we've known each other for a long time. I don't mind if she becomes my mom and Susano my brother. You've grown up so much, her father chuckled. Let's not rush events. Good night, my dear. He kissed his daughter and left the room. From that day on, their family's life took a course towards happiness. A month later, Salvador proposed to Pamela, and another month later, they had a lively wedding in the park of the boarding school. The shadows of the past disappeared forever.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.